Okay. Hello, folks. Crouching Sea Captain Awesome Sauce here, and welcome to my official return to Countdown videos. I've been wanting to do one of these for a long period of time, and really haven't really been able to think of a topic I wanted to talk about, or a topic I wanted to delve into. That being said, I think I might have finally came up with something I want to talk about. Now, I know most of you who've watched those in the past probably could have said, well, you could have just done a Zelda video. And while that may have been the obvious choice and the obvious answer would have been to do a Zelda video, I really didn't want to be known as the Zelda Top 10 guy, as much as I enjoy doing those. Will there be a Zelda Top 10 list in the future? Maybe. But I want to take some time to go over some things that I think define me as who I am now as a gamer in real life and on YouTube, as well as being a let's player and how I control when I'm gaming in private. And a look at some of my personal games, like the personal favorites, games that I've enjoyed, some of my gaming triumphs, things like that. But I also want to talk about something I don't think I've seen a lot of people talk about when it comes to gaming. It's so easy to sit here on camera or in front of playing a game and talk about your accomplishments in games, your achievements, your trophies, what you've done, and what you've completed. But I've never heard anybody ever say about their failures, things that they've failed to complete, or things that kind of didn't work out the way they expected to. It's so easy as a human to talk about your accomplishments, but to literally talk about your failures takes a little bit more guts and integrity to admit that somewhere along the line I screwed up. And that's where this comes from. It's not a long list. I'm not going to go into top 10s, top 15s just yet. I want to ease myself into it. So I decided to do this, the only video thing, and I should talk to you about some of my failures with this, my top 5 games I love, but never beat. Now, these are 5 games that I've played a lot of times, but to this day, still sit in my unbeaten file. So with that in mind, let's go ahead. I just love when your phone rings and you're trying to record a video. Or was it? Oh yeah, like I said, so these are the top 5 games I love but I've never beat. Will I beat them someday? I hope so, and I hope that I'm recording when I actually do beat it because I want to have the reaction of beating it for the first time saved for memory. So, that said, let's go ahead and get started with number 5. Number 5 is Super Metroid. Now, technically speaking, I could have put in any of the Metroid games on here, but I chose Super Metroid as that was the first one in the series that I actually played. I don't know what it is about these games. I do love the lore and the story of Metroid, and I love the action style. I mean, Metroidvania is one of my favorite styles of gameplay, and I love the whole exploration style thing. I just never really had the time, maybe never had time or the opportunity to actually ever finish one. The closest I ever got to finishing a Metroid game was Metroid Prime, getting to the Metroid Prime final boss, only to have my data corrupt on my memory card from my GameCube. I guess what ended up being the reason why I never really beat this game, and it's kind of a thing, was mainly due to the fact that they had limited save spots, and with more than one person in your household playing the game, it was easy for your games to get erased. Having your game constantly erase on you makes it to where you really don't want to finish it. And I do kind of wish I had. Maybe one day I'll finish Super Metroid and go on to other Metroid games. Number 4 is Final Fantasy VIII. Now, I have a habit with games where I won't move forward in a game in a series until I've beaten, for certain game series, until I've beaten the previous 4. There's a couple of key notes to that. Like, I haven't played A Link Between Worlds from Legend of Zelda yet, because I still haven't beaten Skyward Sword. If that makes sense. Like, oh, Skyward Sword's been out for a while, yeah, but I haven't personally beat it. I bought it, and not long after I bought Skyward Sword, my Wii died, and I just haven't had the money to afford my Wii. And another games like this is Grand Theft Auto. I haven't played even 4. I haven't played 4 or 5 because I'm stuck in San Andreas with that stupid flight school mission. But again, that's nothing. And that's the same reason why Final Fantasy. I have yet to play any of them past 8, 9, 10, 11, any of them past 8, because I haven't beaten 8. Now, I never owned 8 outright. I first got into Final Fantasy VIII at a friend's house and played it for the thing and got really fell in love with the story and the lore of the game, and I admit it, got addicted to Triple Triad. So much so that I wanted a copy of the game myself. It was really, really one of those hard games that was really hard to find. It was during that time where Final Fantasy was the big game for the PlayStation, and trying to find Final Fantasy games where I lived was almost nigh to impossible. Come back about 2000, I managed to find a copy of Final Fantasy VIII at a yard sale for $15, and I picked it up right away and went home to play it. Only to find out that Disc 3 was damaged beyond readability, which made it to where once I got to Disc 3, I couldn't go any farther. Now, remember, this is early 2000s. So this is like 2001. So this is like 2001, 2000 when I bought the game. In 2001 when I bought the game. So anybody who knows, finding Final Fantasy by itself is hard. Trying to find each individual disc for a Final Fantasy game is even harder. And to this day, it stands as that one the Final Fantasy franchise that I have yet to beat. Number 3 is going to be a shocker for most of you, but I have never beaten Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. As much as I love this game still sits in my Super Nintendo as one of those games that I've yet to beat. I don't know, I guess maybe it's just me trying to push myself too hard and not really knowing the game that well and trying to get 100% every time, and me constantly just trying to beat myself up. Or when I doesn't happen and constantly start over. Or forgetting where I am and pausing and accidentally deleting saves. Will I beat this game someday? I hope so. I really do. Number 2 is GoldenEye for the Nintendo 64. Okay, there's one reason and one reason only why I have never beaten GoldenEye. And that was, despite the game being as fun as it is, me and my friends spent the majority of the time playing multiplayer. I really never played the main story. I've seen the movie. I'm a big James Bond fan. But, like I said, most of my friends, most of the time, we were playing multiplayer. And really, never really got into anything else other than multiplayer. You know, I've played the single-player campaign a bunch, but I always end up going back to multiplayer. I find multiplayer more fun than the actual story, which I think is sad. If it makes me a bad person, yes, but, you know, who can really blame me when, you know, we really wouldn't have things like Xbox Live and things like this if it wasn't for the multiplayer on games like GoldenEye. And to this day, it still is fun. I still enjoy doing it. But, like I said, this main storyline campaign of it, undefeated. And finally, the number 1 game I love, but I've never beaten. And honestly, I think the only failure I don't consider a failure on my part is Banjo-Kazooie. Now, let me explain. And you look at yourself like, Banjo-Kazooie is one of the greatest platformers of all time. How have you not beaten it? You're just bad at platformers? No, I'm not bad at platformers. The reason why I haven't beaten Banjo-Kazooie is more for a personal reason. Whereas games like Super Metroid were just because of lost save data, and Final Fantasy was because a disc was damaged, or not having any time, or not owning the games, or just not playing the main game mode. And Banjo-Kazooie is a lot different. Unlike most people that I've known, I didn't get Banjo-Kazooie until long after Banjo 2 had already came out. I got Banjo-Kazooie in April of 2001. April, May. I think it was like May 2001. My mistake. For a birthday present. It was one of 3 N64 games I got that year. Those other 2 were Turok 2 Seeds of Evil and Paper Mario. Now, and I've beaten Paper Mario and I've beaten the other one, but Banjo-Kazooie things. Why I haven't beaten it belongs to an emotional reason. In May 2001, I got this with some PlayStation games and I think a couple Dreamcast games for my birthday. In June of 2001, the only positive male role model I ever had in my life, my godfather, who treated me more like a grandson than a godson, was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And the doctors had told us that he was getting anywhere from, because of how aggressive the cancer was, anywhere from 6 months to a year to live. Now I knew what cancer was. I'd seen my friends and a family of friends, and other family members in my life, and people I've known around have cancer. But I've never seen anybody. But I've seen him live 5, 6 years with it. I've never seen anybody deteriorate that fast. Nor did I have anybody ever that close to me that sick. And I wanted to spend every time I could have what left with him with my godfather. And I slept in the same room as him. When the chemotherapy and radiation got really bad, he put a hospital bed in his house. I was there. And I did things. And I wanted to spend all this time with him. I wanted to spend all this time with him. I really did. I really want to spend all this time with him as much as I can. So, when the chemotherapy got really bad, I took all my game systems I had, my PlayStation, my Super Nintendo, my Super at the time, my GameCube, and I placed it in the exact same room where his bed was, his hospital bed was. And I sat there and played the games as he watched me, as a young child in 2001. I went through my entire N64 library, which was at the time 72 games at the time, within the matter of from August to November. At the beginning of November, I started my playthrough of Banjo-Kazooie. And the TV I had was very, very crappy. I didn't really have very good sound. And I saw text on the screen. When I saw text on the screen, I heard voices. And so as a thing, I thought the game, because I didn't know much about the game. I hadn't seen anybody play. There were no Let's Plays out there. YouTube didn't exist. So you didn't really have no video footage of the game. I thought the game legitimately, at that age, had voice acting. I mean, I had Resident Evil 2 on the N64, and it had voice acting, and I thought maybe, and I've seen other games on it with voice acting. Turok 2 had voice acting, so I thought maybe Banjo-Kazooie had voice acting. It just had text and people could read it. Thanksgiving of that year comes around, and my mother, who I was not staying with them, decides that she wants me home for Thanksgiving dinner, to have dinner with my family. I go. 2 days later, I am received home by my godmother telling me that my godfather had been taken to the hospital by ambulance, and that they were saying this was probably it, and that we needed to say goodbye. I go to the hospital. I spend 2 days. I spent 4 days in the hospital watching the strongest man I had known at the time, and the man who's responsible for who I am, not only as a person, but as a father and a husband, and showed me what a real man is supposed to do in order to support their family. Watched as he withered away and passed. And I didn't know what to feel. I couldn't feel emotion. It was a state of shock to where I couldn't feel if I wanted to cry or if I wanted to just ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. Everybody was telling me, "Oh, cry," and be right, like. And I said, "No, I'm just gonna be honest with everybody. No, I'm just gonna be by myself and just mellow my thoughts and memories." I go home, and not even thinking, I go in the room where I had my N64, the same room where his hospital bed that he was sleeping on for the last 3 months of his life stood. I turn the N64, pop in Banjo-Kazooie, and get ready to start the next level, the last level I got to, for Easy Peak. As soon as I find a character with text who starts talking, I realize there's no voice. The voice acting is gone. And I realized that he had done the voices for the characters. He was the voice actor. And I looked over I saw the empty hospital bed, and I dropped the controller, and I cried. I cried for a long time. Because, to me, that's what made the game special. It wasn't the adventure. It wasn't the camaraderie between the bear and the bird, the level design, the monsters, the music. It was the connection that me and him had with him watching me play and trying to make the game a little bit more interesting for a young child. To this day, I've tried many times to beat Banjo-Kazooie, and I always find myself breaking down emotionally as soon as I enter Freeze's Peak. And if I beat this game or not, I couldn't be any prouder of my progress. This game has more emotions, more emotional value to me than any game I've ever played. I have games I love to death. I have games that I love that people haven't heard of. I have games people love that everybody knows. I have games that make me scream, laugh, cry, rage. But none of the games have the same emotional value as Banjo-Kazooie. This game stands as the greatest game I've ever played that you've yet to beat. And the reason behind it has nothing to do with my lack of skill, but to the fact that the person that made it special is no longer with me. I'm 27. I was 13 years ago. 13 years to try to get over this, and yet I can't. It's the last memory I have of him, and part of me thinks that if I beat the game, that memory will be gone, and I know it's not true. But I can't. It things, and it hurts. So many times I've been so close, and every time I get to Freeze's Peak, it's the same thing. I wait for the voices. Even if I'm doing the voices myself now, I still wait for them. I want his voice to the next level. And it's never going to happen. As always, so you know, I'm sitting right now with a maintenance list. And I thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more games that I've done, videos I've done, please subscribe. Any other videos, suggestions, or other lists, leave in the comment section below. As always, I'm your host, CryEngine Dukes, and I thank you for watching.